sometimes you gotta move a few of them around.
So what I would do is you're gonna want to change your camera.
I do a lot of like,
So go down to the microphone.
Ready? Website. Show later. Yep. That's a tab. On the website.
Oh,
That's a tab ready to show later.
Got it.
Just working out. Angel's gonna-
Yeah, not a problem.
Puts the pressure on her.
Are you gonna be able, you got everything you need for the beginning, right?
Yep, I have that. So Angel's gonna hang over the Zoom.
Okay,
Projecting. then.
okay, perfect.
But this is what it's for.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure you got everything you need.
We don't.
I get it.
I know.
And you save $1.2 million. Wednesday was school day, like 15 minutes. So I want to talk about. Craig thought they did it, I'm sitting on transportation.
Yeah, that's a little.
So they lengthened the school day 15 minutes a day. The teachers got a raise per diem, but not.
It's now 5:30 PM. We're gonna start the planning committee meeting on July 9th, 2025. The first thing on the agenda, give me one moment to pull that up. Our public comments, and the guidelines for public comments are: the board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. Any person or group who would like to have an item put on the agenda shall submit their request to the superintendent no later than 7 business days prior to the meeting, and include the name and address of the participant, group affiliation, and if and when appropriate, topic to be addressed. Such request shall be subject to the recommendation of the superintendent and the approval of the board president. To permit fair and orderly public expression, the board will provide 2 periods of public comment at the regular board meeting, and the board publish rules to govern such comment in board meetings. The presiding officer of each board meeting at which public comment is permitted shall administer the rules of the board for its conduct. The presiding officer shall be granted the following rules. Public comment shall be permitted as indicated on the order of business. Anyone having a legitimate interest in the action of the board may comment during the public portion of the meeting. Participants may be recognized by the presiding officer and will be requested to announce and document their name, address, and group affiliation in writing if and when appropriate. Each statement made by the participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. Is it 2 minutes during committee meetings, I believe? Right? And committee meeting comments have to pertain to the committee that you are addressing. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment? No, all right, so then we're gonna move on to the strategic planning portion.
Thank you, yes. And so just a reminder that this section of the agenda are just updates, so want to keep folks in the loops. And the first is our strategic planning. And when I thought about what are the updates around strategic planning, I really fleshed out 3 things. One is that Chris Malloy, our data guru and specialist, and I are working with the director team to finalize a presentation that we'll bring to the full board in January around the strategic plan update. And that'll be equal parts, how did the year go? What are our measurables? What are those showing? And then what forecasting the future. And so we're putting that, we have a draft of a presentation. We're finalizing that, and we'll hear from most of the director team, or all of the director team and others around those updates. The next thing I wrote down is that, I think we've talked about it before, but we worked with, before our contract sunsetted with Donovan, we worked with them to create some core values posters. So we have all our students on posters highlighting our core values that were identified through the strategic planning process, and those posters will be available in schools. I saw some already at summer school, but they'll be available during the school year for sure in our schools and classrooms. And then it's not directly connected to strategic planning, but Chris Malloy and I are also thinking about and getting some feedback around this idea of having a district-wide data team. And we want to engage more of our stakeholders from each building. So we have a rep or 2 from every building that would meet regularly throughout the course of the school year to look at fresh academic, behavior, attendance, data, and be really a conduit of communication between that district leadership team and then buildings. And so it's really in the infancy stages, but we're thinking through that and what that would look like and getting some feedback around that.
Is that the wise way they'd be using the data team?
The WISE Dash.
Yes, yes.
Yep. That platform, it's a great question. We've been using WISE Dash Local for more than 3 years now.
Okay.
It's been in pockets of subgroups who has access. Chris Malloy and I had a pilot group of teachers in the spring that had full access, and we're working towards having all teachers have access. So essentially every staff member would have access by the end of Q1 next year.
Can I ask one more question about that?
Sure. Yeah.
As part of the plan, is there an intention to keep the board in the loop of the data that is being
Absolutely.
given to, okay.
Any other questions, or I'll move to budget? All right, I'm going to move to budget. And again, we know that the lion's share of our budget planning conversations comes through fiscal, and Sarah will continue to have those conversations. But 3 things from a kind of a non-fiscal piece that I wrote down here to think about or share is that Dr. Burke, Lynn, Melissa, and I are planning for a July 21st focus group that held at Marquardt. And so at last I remember, there was about 40 folks that we were inviting. And it would be similar to the focus group that I believe Sam and others engaged in, really getting feedback from people around 3 things. What did we do really well in the last referendum? What didn't go so well? And if we were to go to referendum again, what were the things that we should be thinking about now? And so we have some invites that are out, and we're looking for a large contingency of our stakeholders to engage in that. I think you've heard it here again, but Melissa's finalizing. I'm not sure the update right now. We're meeting tomorrow, but Melissa's put together a mailer for our community, and it's really heavy on educating folks around. We know how difficult school finance is, right? The complexity of that. And so it's equal parts educating people around school finance and also educating people about the current state of our union and district. And so the last I heard that she was going to print and put some final touches on it, but I'll have a clearer picture on that tomorrow. And then the other piece that I wrote down is that Dr. Burke and I are finalizing a letter that will go out to staff, community, and parents certainly. And it'd be similar to the letter we sent in the spring, but just giving an update about the progress and conversations we're having around the financial health of our district. And so we're targeting the latter part of July for that to be delivered.
Okay.
Would you be able to provide us with a sample of that mailer that you're putting together for the community?
I can ask Melissa.
Thanks.
It's not even a sample, it's
Or-
just about done, right? And I
Gotcha.
can have her send it out to you guys tomorrow, and
Sure.
you know, you guys can take a look at that before we send it out to the community. But I do believe that she's trying to hit like next week to mail it out.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
I can ask her to share the PDF or whatever, for sure. Any other questions about budget? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, now we're on the board development, so Sam, that's,
Yeah, definitely. So last time we met, we talked about some different ideas for board development sessions. The first one that we talked about, well, the first one on my list is attorney board basics. The reason I have that first is because we had a little bit of that during, I think it was an HR meeting, June 16th, I mean. We had Brian Waterman come in and talk to the board about some of the ins and outs of board authority and board functions and things like that. I'm guessing that as we encounter different things throughout the year, we're going to continually have opportunities to learn from our lawyers. So I think that was a good start, but this is probably going to be a recurring piece that happens every so
And
often.
I do believe President Mortman's working on another, he's got a list of items already to think about discussing. So.
Okay, excellent. And that kind of leads into the next one. We were going to originally have a board retreat yesterday regarding collective commitments, but we decided to hold off on that because we thought it would be best to welcome in whoever we're going to be getting at the end of this month so that they could participate in a collective commitments discussion as well in the month of August. And during that board retreat, we were probably going to talk about some of those pieces as well. That was at least what I had heard from Mr. Wardman. And then another item that we had that was on the docket was a board retreat about Robert's Rules. That's also being held off until August. We're still finding out some of the price points, the feasibility, and what would be the best path forward regarding board retreat on Robert's Rules, but that's definitely something we're going to be bringing in the very near future. And then after that, we had two more on our list last time. We had some education on DAPES and some education on district finance. We'll figure out where those fit in once we get the collective commitments and Robert's Rules out of the way. Those are kind of our foundational pieces. And then I had one other that was added on, and that was a discussion about kind of how DPI and state statute and federal law play together and how those interact with local school districts. I thought that would be good to have a discussion about at some point in the future. But again, that's definitely farther down the line beyond our collective commitments and Robert's Rules. So that's where we are, and we should have some better ideas about that towards the end of July about, we're probably going to be putting out requests, can you make it this day or this day regarding our collective commitments meeting. And we'll do the same thing for Robert's Rules. Hopefully by September, we can do that. Another thing that I had brought up to me as I was going through these and figuring out some of these pieces was the idea of not only having those larger, I guess you could call them special board meetings as board retreats, but also doing smaller episodes like we did with Brian Waterman before a board meeting or at a committee meeting where it's relevant. And just having, maybe like a 15 or 20-minute presentation on one topic or another. We could do that on DAPES potentially, or on district finance for that matter. Those things work well for having a shorter demonstration if need be. And for that matter, the DPI piece could as well. So that's what I have currently. You guys got any questions?
You said August is when?
Yeah, August should be when we do our collective commitments.
Yeah.
And we'll see about the Robert's Rules piece, how quickly we can integrate that as well. But it kind of stems out of where everyone's schedule is by that point.
Good. All right, so now we're gonna move to the discussions topic for the parent engagement survey.
I can take that, please. Thank
Oh,
you.
yes.
I'll start with gratitude. So I want to thank the members of the board for the support around the parent and student engagement survey. As we talked about planning throughout last calendar year, this is the first year that we have the parent and student engagement survey through School Perceptions.
Okay,
We've had in the past through a different vendor, but this is our first year with School Perceptions. You'll hear more about the student engagement survey data through that strategic plan update. But tonight we're here to learn more about our parent survey. And tonight we have Derek Gottlieb here. I told him about the tradition of visitors bringing treats, and he brought donuts for us. So thank you, Derek. Yeah. And so Derek has been instrumental in our work to deliver this survey to our parents at a really high level. He's been instrumental in walking Chris Malloy and I through the data and understanding the data. And he's been gracious enough to not only bring treats, but come face to face and share the data. So I really appreciate you, and thanks for being here. And I'll turn it over to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Derek. I'm from School Perceptions. We are quite pleased to have been able to do staff and student and parent surveys. The report that I'm going to show you tonight, which is up on all of these screens, is going to look very similar to the other reports that you or other committees will see later on, student reports, staff reports. I do want to say at the outset that one key difference because this is the first year that we've been doing parent and student surveys. We've been doing staff surveys in Watertown for some time, and so the reports look a little bit different because we have our own longitudinal data and can show change over time. This is baseline data for parents and students, so it's going to show current averages, but obviously you can't see growth measured. So next slide, please. There'll be a lot of that. Basically tonight, I want to go through some background, talk about the who responded, the results and the analysis, and then I'm happy to take questions and talk through anything that you'd like to go through. Next. We have been working with schools for over 20 years to provide independent survey-based research to school districts. We've conducted, millions of staff, student, parent, and community surveys in order to help schools improve, and have worked with over 1,000 school districts, virtually everyone in Wisconsin, but nationwide as well. So, the parent survey for this spring went out in the middle of April. May 1st was the survey deadline. There were 505 respondents, 17% participation rate. That's, as far as parent survey response rates are the thing that everybody who does surveys of schools, whether for-profit or not, is trying to solve. 17% is within the normal range. The highest we get is like 25%. So bear this in mind as we go through the data, that the people most likely to respond are the people most likely to hold a strong opinion. So this is just to say that, just to encourage caution in terms of making inferences and judgments, because there's a whole lot of parents that aren't represented in this data. Here we have the distribution of which schools are attended by the folks who responded. Watertown High is a significant response rate. These will add up, as you will see, to more than 100%. It's obviously because parents have kids in more than one school. That's all. Next slide. Grade level distribution is relatively even. A higher number of parents of juniors responded. It's interesting, but not meaningful. Next. Just the percentage of respondents who have children who are receiving certain kinds of services through the district. Next slide. Demographic breakdown. Okay, now we get into our analyses. So we use a 5-point Likert scale, but respondents don't have a neutral option. So that is to say there's no 3. If you disagree with something, you select either 1 or 2 for strongly disagree or regularly disagree. And if you agree with something, you select 4 or 5. It's obviously possible to get like a mathematical mean of 3, but that option is not on the table. If you check don't know doesn't apply, it just is taken out of the averaging calculation. What this means is that for any individual item on this 5-point scale, basically if you see a score of like 4.10, it means your average respondent is agreeing with that statement. Things below a 4, well, things in the 3 range are, in the middle, and anything in the 2s or below are disagreeing. Our indices, we use a standard set of indexes that are fed by individual items. And what you're going to see, the index scores are the average of every response to every question included in that index. So next slide, please. I realize that was more work than I needed to. So informed, included, educational excellence, atmosphere, and experience. These are the indices that we tend to use. What I just want to draw everybody's attention to is that 4 of these 5 indices are above 4. That's fantastic. Educational excellence is the only one that's in the 3s. More on that in a moment. But this is a broad look at how parents feel about their relationship with the district, the experience that their kids are getting, how the schools are doing. This is good data. Next, please. Planning priorities. This is always interesting. We have this big menu of potential areas that we ask parents to select up to 4, and then we will represent them as such. Next slide, please. So paying attention to the top 4, the most commonly selected one. Parents would like to see, as you're planning for the future, the inclusion of more life skills, recruiting and retaining high quality staff, mental health services for students, career and technical education. Student behavior and discipline is 5th. School safety and security is 6th. It's good to see those 2 items that far down the list. That's an indicator that some baseline needs are being fully met in the district, such that we can think about areas that the district wants to expand services. And life school skills and career and technical education are very commonly in the top 4 these days. Next slide, please. There's another slide. It's like, here's some other stuff. Looking at what's in the bottom or of the least important to parents is also worth noting. Student transportation, integrating technology into coursework, education on the uses of AI, preschool stuff. Interesting. Next. And now we're going to go individual item analysis. So same Likert 5-point Likert scale, but we're just going to go item by item. I won't read them all because that's exhausting, but not exhausting. So in terms of leadership and communication, these are the items that parents have the most concern about. It's important to remember when this survey went out and when it was taken. It was 2 weeks after a referendum vote that wasn't successful. So parents are expressing a lot of anxiety in these 3 questions. District administration is doing what it takes to make our district successful. Scores in the 3, only 68% agree. School board is doing what it takes to make our district successful, 47% agree. District is heading in the right direction, 42% agree. You're going to notice a striking difference between parent responses to this set of questions about district level concerns, and again, their impression of their relationship with their kids' schools and the experience that their kids are getting. Next.
Eric, is that common?
What?
Where you see a difference between district and school relationship?
Yeah, yes. Yes, it's common. This is more stark than normal.
Good.
What is also common, could you scroll back up one more time because I wasn't paying attention to this when I was looking at this. What is also common is this distinction that you're seeing. Parents, this is also true of staff for when that survey comes across your desk, but parents are always more willing to blame one aspect of district leadership, either the board or the administration, and go relatively easy on the other one. And it varies incredibly on who they're assigning responsibility to. So that's just, it's also, not only is it normal for there to be a discrepancy between the way that parents respond to the district as a whole and the way that they respond to their kids' schools, but also it's normal for there to be a discrepancy between different bodies within the overall leadership of the district. Overall, how would you rate communications from school? I just focus on the good and great part of this, which is just to say, 2/3 of people say good or great, only 9% say actually poor. That's also relatively normal. How would you like to receive school information? This is entirely ordinary. And all our reports look the same, but you will notice a massive sort of skew. For parents, it is emails and texts. For community members, in advance of a referendum, it is something on paper. Full stop, like that's an important distinction. Next slide, please. Now, the school experience page. And again, just right away, you're looking at 90-ish% agreement, scores above 4. I feel welcome in my child's school. School facilities are clean and well kept. School staff treat my child with dignity and respect. I have at least one school staff member I feel comfortable contacting when I have an idea or concern. It's great. Next one. We have ordered these in terms of the score rating. So it's downhill, but not seriously, is what I'm trying to say. Safety, great. Fair treatment, great. I know how to support my child's learning, great. Overall, my child was able to handle the emotional challenges of the school, basically a 4. Next page, please. My child gets help when they need it. The school has high expectations. The school teaches the materials that reflect my family's cultural and racial background. The school provides opportunities for parental involvement. All of those are around 4, upper 80% agrees. Most days my child enjoys going to school, 84%. I'm satisfied with how much my child is learning. I am updated on how my child is doing. I have the opportunity to provide feedback to school and teachers. Agreements above 80%, high 3s. School communication is both timely and transparent. There is a healthy culture at our school. I'm satisfied with our school's efforts to address bullying. That's where we start to see a drop off in terms of agreement percentage. Healthy culture, I'm satisfied with our school's efforts to address bullying. A couple of notes on that quickly. The bullying item is low everywhere. It's most often the bullying or the lowest item. What is unusual in this data compared to other districts that we work with is the high level of agreement with the phrase, when my child breaks a rule at school, they are treated fairly. Usually those items track together because there's a larger sort of discipline concern or a concern about how discipline, safety, et cetera, are going. So to see those 3 items, bullying, my child feels safe at school, when my child breaks a rule, they're treated fairly, coming apart, is interesting. That's worth thinking about, why it's bullying in particular that is getting the disagreement here. Next slide, please. This is totally standard. Don't know why the slide presented exactly like this. This is just a question about the amount of homework. 3/4 of people say it's just right. A small percentage say too little. A small percentage say don't too much. That's normal. Does your child currently participate or plan to participate in any school-sponsored sports? Just basic information. Reliable access to reliable internet, 98%. That's great. Overall satisfaction, you'll have to scroll one more slide. This is our net recommender score. The idea being that this is an indicator that is predictive of whether parents are not only, the question is, would you recommend our school to a friend or family member, but also it's an indicator of how willing parents are to continue enrolling their kids in the district itself. What we look at are the 8s, 9s, and 10s. Those are your proactive advertisers, your word of mouth advertisers, people who will start conversations unprompted about how much their kid likes their schools, how well their schools are doing. And so for that to be over or around 50% is extremely good. There's the 3%, 1%, 3% in 2, 1, and 0 is a little higher than we tend to see with those numbers, indicating some softening, but overall, this net recommender score is quite good.
Okay.
And this summary analysis is the part where I'm like, here are the items of the highest scores is basically the first slide. Again, school staff treat my child with dignity and respect, and that's in the top 5, as well as the my child feels safe at school. Good things are happening. It's probably worth looking into why the bullying question is so different from those two. That's interesting to me. And one of the most important predictors of parents' willingness to recommend the district is that they feel that their input is valued. And so having at least one school staff member I feel comfortable contacting when I have an opinion or a concern is a big deal as well. Next slide, please. Items with the lowest score: healthy culture, the district level questions, and bullying. So the healthy culture, the satisfied with the efforts to address bullying probably go together, and of course, the district level question being completely separate from their school experience is also a data point.
Is it fair to say, Derek, in subsequent years, those slides will look different because we'll have some more data sets to compare?
Yes, absolutely. The slides will look different. You'll see, so what we saw there was an agreement percentage and a composite score. In future years, you'll see 4 columns that are like agreement percentage, previous year's score, this year's score, growth, or percent change between those two things. So you'll be able to track this longitudinally over time and measure progress on these.
Thanks. Questions for Derek?
I have no questions. Thank you for presenting.
Yeah, I have a question. Did the parents have the option of personal comments on this survey?
They did, yes.
And there were no comments?
It's not that there are no comments. Those aren't included in this report. We
Okay.
sent, I believe, comment reports to the administration.
Okay,
So yeah, what we do with those is, 500 parents have something like 9 opportunities on the parent survey to provide open-ended comments. A couple of them are like, what are the school's biggest strengths? Where can the schools improve? Other things are like, to me, being involved in my child's education means, et cetera.
Sure.
Those are really interesting. Data, what we do with those is we qualitatively analyze those for themes, pull out the top 5 or 6 areas of major concerns, write them up, and give them to the district administration.
great, thanks.
Do we know what the 5 or 6 areas of concerns are?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I don't have it off the top of my head either.
I would just say, if we could get a copy of that. that would be
Certainly.
helpful. Yeah.
Those were helpful on the teacher surveys that we had last week.
Yeah,
I could pull them up if you would like.
I can share them.
Okay.
I have that
Okay.
executive summary right there.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's on the executive summary.
I think I have.
Okay, all right.
Yep, I can share.
You said that when there is this answer coming in, there's the don't know, doesn't apply option.
Yes.
And when we're looking at these percentages in each individual question, we're only seeing the percentage of the number of people that answered a 5, 4, 2, or 1, correct? We're not there, because you're removing those don't apply answers.
Can you scroll up to one of the slides that we're talking about, just so I can make sure that we talk about the same thing? It'll be a little bit, something like this, like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are percent agree. Sorry, I should have clarified this more. That is the percent of all respondents who answered either a 4 or a 5, period.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the score, the 4.22, the don't know, doesn't apply answers are not factored into that. Those are just not scored.
Okay. That makes sense. And then does school perceptions, and this is a broader question, but do school perceptions provide like professional development, response techniques, and things like that for these answers when we're seeing say the issue with satisfaction with schools' efforts to address bullying, healthy culture, things like that?
We do. We are a small shop. There's 8 of us who work there, and so we don't have the capacity to do a lot of like in-person staff-wide
Sure.
coaching or anything like that. But we, on a regular basis, will be like, here's what the research literature says is effective in moving these kinds of things. Here are the other items that you can expect to move if you move this, and here is the impact that you ought to be able to see in terms of the Net Promoter Score, which has enrollment effects. So yeah, we can provide that kind of stuff.
Okay, gotcha. Have we procured any of that at this point, or we haven't reached out for that? Okay.
Not at this point.
All right, then I am, because I have a number of things that I'd be interested in asking about that, but I don't necessarily want to take up an hour. So I'm wondering if maybe I can request some additional information, some samples of what you guys do there. If I could get that, and then maybe we can, I don't know exactly how it works, we could like post-emptively add it to the minutes. Would that be possible, or a link to those things? Just so that it's not like something that I'm just getting after the fact.
I mean, if you want to send me the requests,
Okay.
I will be the front for Derek, and then I can share it with everyone.
Sure, that sounds perfect.
But just so I can wrap my head around it and think about it on my way back to Joseph, what is an example of one of the questions you might have?
Yeah, so, chiefly what those materials are for, for the advice that you're giving on, here's how I would combat, a low score for healthy culture.
Mhm.
And, how are you calculating those results? How are you measuring them against each other? I don't know how much of that you guys do. But mainly the professional development options that you guys provide, any brochures or introductory material to ideas, and as well as, and I know this one's a little bit more abstract, but how you analyze, especially those comments, but the answers to the surveys and kind of how you bring those out. Because I'm guessing that, and I could be wrong, but I'm guessing that when we're looking at not the likely recommendation, but more so the, where is it? It's a little bit farther up here. The planning priorities, life skills, recruit. I'm guessing that those comments are playing a role in how that's calculated as well. Would that be correct, or would that not be?
No, that's a separate question in which like there's literally a series of check boxes that parents get with like, here are the various things, life skills, whatever. Pick 4 that you find or up to 4 that are most important. And then what you see on the slide is like the percentage of people who pick that particular one.
Definitely. Okay, yeah. So mainly,
So the comments are much more like they help give, flesh that out a little bit in terms of like when they say life skills, what do they mean? It's
Sure.
often financial literacy, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would definitely be helpful. So yeah, definitely looking at that. And then the either professional development or guidance for administration, I guess you might call it. So the staff side and the administration side, and the board side as well. So those sorts of things.
Informally, I'll just share with you here that our basic approach to doing that kind of stuff is we are like, here's what we know tends to work for this answer. This is because like the questions that we use are nationally normed. They're species of questions that have been asked, in school surveys for 20 years, not just by us, but by other folks. And so we'll be like, Educational Researcher, the journal, has tracked these impacts. Here's like a bunch of randomized controlled trials that have done intervention studies. Here's what they suggest. Also, here are 5 districts in Wisconsin that are roughly your size that have really succeeded in moving this. Here's the contact information. Here's what we did.
Sure.
basically.
Yeah.
So like, we try to provide like, I come from an academic background. I came to School of Perceptions from a professor job in education. And one of the things that I'm really excited about working here is being able to play a little bit of a connector role between districts who have had success in these things, because what the research tells you always looks great, but like whether or not it's going to work where you are is a totally open question. And so having the ability to have conversations with people who've taken a shot at something and succeeded is much more valuable.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah. Like I said, I'll give Jason further details and he can email that to you. I'm not looking for it like in 20 minutes or anything like that. So thanks.
I think it's also important to note that school level data was shared with principals. And so every principal is working with their leadership teams over the summer to dig into data and develop some goals. So they're digging into this data as well.
Good.
Is it possible to get that school level data as well to the board?
Yes, we can, we have in the past, really high level school data. Yeah. And if we have interest, I think you and I can talk about it when we meet. And
Sure,
talk about the next plan. Yeah.
Okay.
Derek, thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to stay, but don't feel obligated. Right?
I'm trying to get home from my 4-year-old.
Yeah, just leave the door. It's like Dave said over there.
I can pass it around then.
You should take a donut for your 4-year-old. I'm sure he'd love it.
Right before bedtime.
Yeah.
Can't have that. Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Yes, have a good evening.
Have a nice night.
See, the bullies rated 20 points higher than the school board.
Wow.
So I blame that on Carl, but.
What did I do? Wow. That was a drive-by. Yeah, thanks.
All right, so now we're moving on the technology team update.
Yeah, so I can do the introduction there as well. I always again start with gratitude. So Lynn, Tyler, and David have been working hard on developing systems that allow us to be really effective and efficient and increase engagement, I think, right? And so they're here to walk us through the why, what, and how of two things. One is a transformation of using Zoom to Google Meet, and then also I think the increased leverage of YouTube. And so they're here to share some information, get some feedback, and then ultimately work towards navigating the execution of the plan. So I'll turn it over to you, and thank you very much.
Go ahead.
So we are, as you said, we are transitioning our virtual meeting platform from Zoom to Google Meet, as well as YouTube Live. And then we also have been working hard putting up all of our meetings from the 24-25 school year into YouTube, and that YouTube link is now live. So our why behind this transitioning from Zoom to Google Meet would be because Google Meet is included in our fees paid in our Google Workspace for Education account. Zoom is a second platform that we're paying for, so it would be cost effective to get rid of that second platform. And then we're also, Google Meet is also a little more secure than Zoom. So, and then also as far as the online availability of all of our board meetings, we know that the community has been asking for this for a while, so they don't have to request from me the links to these meetings. So this is more transparency and ease of access for our community. So beginning with the July board and committee meetings, all of our meetings will be on Google Meet, okay? But the July 28th board meeting will be YouTube Live, as well as Google Meet. We are requesting that people who would like to just watch the meeting and not participate, use the YouTube Live link. And then if they want to participate in the meeting, they would need to use the Google Meet link. And when I say participate, I mean they want to do virtual public comment. But then our administrators, if they have to remote in for whatever reason, would use the Google Meet link. And then, or a special guest, let's say our gentleman that was here tonight, Derek, couldn't make it face to face, he would Google Meet into the regular board meeting. Our committee meetings are not going to be on YouTube Live. So we would encourage, I'm sorry, I completely lost my spot there, but The links to YouTube Live and Google Meet will be available in our public notice within Board Docs, but they're also going to be available on our website in the news events. Could you scroll down, or Tyler? So there's events there, and you see July 28th. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you click on that event. The YouTube Live link is there, as well as the Google Meet link is in there. So they can access, the community can access those links there. I have always, since I've been in this position, posted our links to our meetings there, but now it'll just be Google Meet as well as YouTube Live. The YouTube Live is only, again, during the regular board meetings.
And the discrepancy or the schism between which one really is whether or not they want to do public comment or not?
Correct. Yes.
One real benefit of the YouTube Live is community members can subscribe to the channel and get notifications when they're live, so they don't have to go looking for a link to join the meeting anymore. They'll just get a pop-up notification and they can just join the YouTube Live, which is what we anticipate most community members to do.
And so, I was saying, so your thoughts are mostly people will just go on the YouTube Live,
Right.
unless they're one of maybe 1 to 3 people who use the electronic way to address the board, they would use that Google Meet.
Or if one of the board members couldn't make it.
Right, and they would
Yeah.
use that Google Meet.
Google.
Correct, yes, thank you.
Can I ask if it's a capacity issue that we're creating, which is fine if it is, I'm just wondering if that's why we're having a Google Live and a Google Meet where they can come in and participate. You know, because there was like a capacity with Zoom of like 300 attendees and then they wouldn't let anybody else in the room. Is that the same case with Google Meets? Like, is there a capacity?
Google Meet has 1,000.
Okay, okay.
And that isn't, I mean, that's a bonus, but we've only seen that once with Zoom. The bigger problem with Zoom, in my opinion, besides the fact that we're paying for a second platform and that we already have Google Meet with the full bells and whistles and the same things that Zoom offers, but also Zoom has a real problem with people being able to get their links and agenda without going out to see them. Like, they can data mine those, and that's why we see people going into Zoom links. We constantly get emails saying, hey, your Zoom link might be compromised, just a heads up, and we do
Okay.
that almost every meeting.
Yeah, we've had
So-
people streaming in and just bombing the meeting.
Oh, I remember.
We've done a couple, and this is gonna be much more secure.
It'll be
Okay.
much better. They can't data mine it like that. There's other things that you can do with Meet that you can. The way it integrates with our Google Docs and presenting and sharing and the calendar, it's just, I mean, we've transitioned to become pretty much a Google school, and using the Google tools that are part of that environment makes sense.
Okay,
Also-
perfect, thank you.
A little bit off this is, so we've been live streaming, just as an example, we've been live streaming the athletic events for a period of time. So a little bit of data off of that is a lot of people who like to just be in the know and see what's going on, like to put it up on their TV, and with the YouTube availability, they can go ahead and put it on like the living room TV or
Okay,
something and just be able to watch what's going on in the district.
The real difference is you get the difference between the people who want to attend the meeting just to see what's happening, right? And the people who are attending the meeting, but they also want something to say. When those people attend the Google Meet, it's like them being in the meeting. The rest of the people are like, they're watching from the window. I'm just watching and I can hear what's happening in there, I can see what's happening in there, but they can't interact through the YouTube, right? There'll be some comments that can happen through that YouTube thing, I believe, right?
Yeah, we have comments turned on, they can comment through that. It's up to
Now,
comment on.
What I think as a board, we should really discuss whether or not we want to continue to have live commenting during our meetings. As you guys might know, the last couple of meetings, it's been really abused. And people being vulgar towards one another and towards our board members. If you're following it, a lot of that's been happening. President Wortman and I are really concerned about that. And during the meeting, if they were here doing that, of course, they'd be gabbled out and asked to leave. right? We can't really do that with commenting.
Right, and it's not fair for one to have to moderate that entire meeting and
Yeah,
kick people out.
and not only that, but it's distracting for those of us who are logged in, right, to see what it looks like on that side of the coin. And then to see those distracting things and to try to stay in the meeting. And so at a board meeting coming up, I think it's President Warman's intent to put that on as a discussion and see if we want to just shut that off. Because, he does have purview as board president to gavel somebody out, but he thinks that this is something that probably needs the full board attention and discussion.
Thank
Yeah, I would wonder if Google Meet has an option for certain key phrases or words if someone uses vulgar language or something like that, if we can have some sort of restriction where that comment doesn't get posted. I'm always a big fan, I've been advocating for this since I got on the board. I want people to be able to communicate as much as possible. I think it's really important for people to do that. So if there's a way, and I'm just throwing it out there for now, but if there's a way that we can maintain that avenue of discussion for people during the board meeting, I don't really care if they have positive or negative things to say, as long as they're not using language that could be potentially offensive for other people who are viewing on Google Meet, or on YouTube for that matter. I think that would be fine by me. But I think that having a way that we can ensure that they're not kind of crossing over that boundary would be important. So maybe if we can look into that.
Well, I can look into it, but I will say from a technical standpoint and kind of from the legal background on my end, you never really want to have a school platform that you're supplying to the public that they can abuse unmoderated, right? Mm-hmm. So even if they're not using abusive language, but they're still attacking other people in a way that is not using vulgar language, but it's still an attack. I personally struggle with that as us exposing ourselves in a way that we allow that supply to platform to do that without moderating it or, having it and to supply yet another person to moderate, a platform in that way and then choose. That's a struggle. That is going to be a real struggle for the district to be able to control.
And I know, Mr. Loxton, you're not an attorney.
No,
right? But I will tell you that Mr. Wortman has reached out to our attorney on this topic because he was worried about maybe possible liability and opening ourselves up to that. I don't know what the response was, but I know that he has some concern over this issue and we should talk about it in the next meeting. Or whenever he wants to agenda it as a discussion.
Yeah, if we could, just to get out in front of that with information, if we could get some info on potential abilities for filtering of obscene language and moderation possibilities, because again, I would rather, if possible, leave open the avenue for people to continue to speak, because I think even if someone has criticisms for me, I think it's still valuable for them to be able to put those things out there. I think that if there's a way we can do that without it running afoul of legal issues, without it starting to get into some really negative territory there, really bad territory, I think that would be best. So if you can find some information on that for us, that would be awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Completely agree with you, Sam.
Thanks, Carl.
So
Okay, we
just a
got-
couple more things that I had.
Please, Sarah.
That, can you guys go back to the menu? So like I said, all of the 24-25 meetings have been uploaded, and every single website has a button that says board YouTube link. You can click on that, and when they click on it, it will go to,
Switch to the tab, it'll open up a new tab on you.
there it goes. And this is where, this is where all of our meetings are.
Oh, nice, Lynn.
So,
I'm a
please
YouTube
know.
star now.
Please know that anything prior to the 24-25 school year, they'll still have to request for me a link to it. Because there are a lot of videos out there and to upload them would take a while. And then my other thing is social media and the website. There's going to be announcements pushed out to website, social media tomorrow, so that the public is made aware and they'll be encouraged to subscribe to our Board of Education YouTube channel.
Thank you for working on that, guys.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, It was a big endeavor. You guys have done a really good job. I think it looks great. I think what you're doing so far is really is a really great move for the district as far as, you know, transparency and the opportunity for people to communicate, to get a hold of that information easily. I'm really happy with it.
Any other questions, concerns, or?
Thank you for your work.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll move on to the DAPE's professional development. So I can't really say it's gonna be a professional development. I'm just really gonna go over what I've learned from the videos, because I've never actually been part of the DAPE's process yet. Well, not part of the planning. Okay, so we're gonna go to how I'm gonna first introduce how it was presented. Please correct me at any juncture, because I was not part of the planning with you and Diane. So, I don't know if it was the committee or Diana and you or the whole board that decided that the DAPE's process is supposed to be a superintendent-led evaluation tool where the super self-evaluates and does a self-assessment. He picks his strategic goals and plans for the district. They decide at that point if they're going to put out a special survey. My understanding is that we decided not to, because there was already surveys going out with school perceptions, and we were just going to use that data. Instead of it being a individual self-assessment, they went in the direction of it being a group effort. Was it the entire board participating in that, or was it just you and Diana? Because I understand that the process is Diana works with the board, and then you and Diana work together, because she was like the leader of the DAPE's process.
Yes and no, because I think you're getting further down than we got to.
Well, no, this is just the initial goal setting. Right, and then the evaluation, the first step evaluation where.
The self-evaluation.
Yeah, the self-evaluation, it wasn't necessarily a self-evaluation, correct? It was like board input, it wasn't you actually evaluating?
It was me evaluating, where I thought I was based on input I've received over the last couple of years from board members. And I used those board member statements as discussion points for sharing my thoughts, right? I picked the ones that stood out to me.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So it
Yeah.
was a self-assessment.
Correct. It wasn't the board assessing me and then me putting it in there. It was a number of quarterlies that the board had done over a couple of years, and me bringing statements to the forefront of things I thought resonated with me, things we were working on, and things that supported the goals that I put together. And I could say, well, here's why I put that goal in there, and so on.
Okay.
Okay.
So we did the step one appropriately. Step two, we did a super check-in, and per the video that I watched, there's supposed to be artifacts in there provided by Jared, given to the board at that point, either in the system that they could look at, or the super had an option to print out all of those artifacts for us to see during his review process. I think there might have been a hiccup. Things were a little busy, so none of those artifacts got put in there.
I was, again, a learning process. I was not instructed by CISA 6 or Diana to put those in.
Yes,
You know, so we didn't get that far in the process,
yes.
is what I'm saying. But yes, in general, how I understand it to be is I would be also, by the time we hit that first meeting, be putting in artifacts.
Correct, yes, for artifacts that align with, so Jared will pick up the 3 goals. And the artifacts that go in there would show that he is meeting or exceeding those goals that were set, as well as other artifacts that have to go with the other goals that he did not set his goals around that year, to present to the board to show that he's meeting or exceeding those expectations. At that point, the board is supposed to convene, discuss it, and then the person responsible or the head of the DAPE's process would then go into the frontline system and give reflection back to Jared based on the conversation the board had after the meeting, the check-in. And then I have not been part of the last step yet. I don't even think Jared has, right? Because it's so new.
No. Yeah, I mean, we already hit the wall of what we've been through.
Yes.
Right? We haven't been through a whole year of the process.
Yes, so that's coming up in October, correct? I believe.
October is the second time we're supposed to meet. And by then, you and I will have worked together to, and CISA, gather those, artifacts, put them in, have some discussion around, the importance of those. And then move forward with the discussion with the larger board around those, and myself as a discussion piece. You guys will then have some conversation, give her statements to be putting back into the tool that I can reflect on.
Okay.
Right.
So we have a couple things that I think we
At
need
least
to.
that's my understanding.
Yes, this is at my understanding too. We have a couple things we need to decide. Previously, when we implemented the process, it was decided by the previous board that we would not align Jared's evaluation with the school year, but rather with his contract. The rest of the district administration aligns their evaluations with the school year, and I think for consistency, I think it might be better for the board to discuss if we want to move back his evaluation to go with the school year and not with his contract. So any reflections you guys feel about that either way, please let me know. I prefer consistency in the district, and if all the other administrators are assessed on the timeline throughout the school year, I think it would be best to move our superintendent along with that, having the assessment during the school year.
And I'll share the same thing I said last time they moved it to my contract. Doesn't make no difference to me. I want to make sure that we just get through a process, a full year, right? It's now my third year in the district, and we're still working out like how best do we evaluate the superintendent, which is, no shade. I've been in that process myself, but we're just trying to learn, right? And with a lot of transition with the board and 4 board presidents in 3 years, things got shaky. And
Yes.
so we're hoping to take the shaky out of it and get back on a path and really get there.
Yes, and we also need to decide as a board if we want a superintendent-led evaluation tool, or if we would like to work alongside Jared and come up with his goals together and not have it be a self-evaluation. Now, I think we could still use the dates and the front line, but there should be a disclaimer added to the front of that document saying that we are not using this as a self-assessment, but as a tool where we collaborate with our superintendent to set his goals.
Yeah, and I think that because the goals were set before I got on the board, by a year, half a year, something like that.
My first year, the board said, these are your goals.
Sure.
Second year, it was, well, we've got to modify, let's have a discussion about goals.
Yeah.
And then this last one was, Jared, come up with some goals based off of our last comments in the strategic plan and things that you think are important to the school district.
Yeah. And I think the goals that we have in DAPES are not bad goals by any means. I think that looking at some of the stuff that we would want to improve in the district, it really does align with that. We're talking about, handling bullying or discipline or whatever you want to call that. That's already in there. We were talking about the policy process, which I think has gone very well. It was a very ambitious project. I think that there's a lot of that there. I think that may be, like you said, more of a collaborative thing and helping, because I think that Jared's assessment of where those goals should be was not half bad by any means. But I think that maybe adding a little bit more context, fleshing that out a little bit and saying, hey, well, I appreciate those goals. There are a couple things here or there that really do need to be addressed as well. I think that would be worthwhile to do. So I would personally be in favor of bringing that, I guess, forward for a discussion, at least at the full board.
Yeah, I think I agree that the goals align with what we're looking for, but I I think there should be at least one goal attached to academic outcomes.
Let's,
So that's a
Can-
little bit more.
Please.
Well, question, first of all, can I get the information about the dates? That-
Oh, yes, of course.
So, for full disclosure, I know this meeting is recorded, I'm not an official member of this committee. Right, so I do have your permission to speak?
Oh, yes, actually, all the committees, we encourage all board members to participate if they're able.
So, I've been on the receiving end of what you're doing. And, as a president of organization as well as an administrator of a private school, a hybrid approach to professional evaluation at the level that we're talking for Dr. Berg, I think is appropriate.
Okay.
His assessment of his attainments or weaknesses and strengths and, those things is very, very important for us to know.
Yes, I agree.
But there needs to be outside consideration as well to be helpful. There is, I don't know that I'm a fan of it. I know there's a 360 evaluation as a school. I don't know if the school district's ever used that. Jason, you might know. I found it intellectually a bit unwieldy. But it's an interesting concept because what it asks is the person above you and below you to give input. And I think that comes with some risk. Where I struggle is with the person below you who's reporting to you, because there's a lot of room for issues to develop there. But I do think that the board should have some opportunity to have some input in developing the goals. And, but also getting very good information from Dr. Berg relative to his performance.
Yes, and I don't think that it was intentional by any means that Jared didn't add any artifacts. It was just so new and everything was changing so quickly with the board over the past 6 months that I think it wasn't.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Add them.
he didn't know until I watched the training videos and said, hey, Jared, you didn't add any artifacts. And he was like, I didn't know I was supposed to.
Well, and again, this is an ignorant question on one level, but educational jargon is amazing. In this context, what does artifact mean?
Just like documents to support that he is
So it's
needing,
documentation.
yeah.
Data, other things.
I assumed that's what it was, but.
So for instance, one of my goals, right,
was
was to cut $1.5 million over 3 years, right? And so I would then document the cuts that we made to this year's budget, the dollar amount that those represent, and say, hey, I worked really hard with our staff to do this.
Leave it to education to come up with a term that has multiple.
Oh, I like it. It makes me think of like, it's like the district is a tell.
An
And we're digging
archaeological dig,
through, and we're doing an archaeological dig, and we're finding out about Jared's
We're gonna go to history.
Jared's lineage and legacy. But like in reverse, so.
That is great.
I like the word artifact, but I'm a really big fan of Indiana Jones.
Oh, no. National treasure, right?
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, man. He's great.
Sorry.
But thank you for
Well,
asking.
not that movie, that's a great movie.
Indiana Jones.
So this is really just a starting off conversation because we need to figure out how we're gonna move forward as a board, with the super review. Do we want, Jelaine had expressed that she thinks that it would be good if it was a collaborative effort, and I also agree. But because we're gonna still use Frontline unless we use a different tool, I personally feel there should be a disclaimer in the beginning of that self-evaluation tool stating, this is not a self-evaluation, this was a collaborative effort of the board and administration and the super.
I'm a fan of having a team I can work with to talk about where we can continue to improve, right? And as long as we keep distinguishing the difference between an evaluation system that, DAPES is meant to be an evaluation system, right, that talks about professional development, how do you get better, right? There's a component of every evaluation system that you need to think about and have that becomes the other part, which is if you're not meeting goals, right? We would then be removing myself outside of that evaluation system, and we would be talking about some kind of a improvement plan, a personal improvement plan, right? And so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, that is part of a possibility for evaluation. Hopefully I never make that a reality for you guys. But the rationale is, just because Dave's focus is mostly on goals and how do you attain them, and if you don't hit the goal, we understand, but it's about process of keep getting better. I want you to know, like, if there's some serious doubts, you need to share those as well along the way. And we need to talk about that so that I don't get to the point where you're frustrated and there's a personal improvement plan or other discussions about, finding a different job. I want to hit that up way ahead of time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. I think what it comes down to with my thoughts, because I agree with Jillian and Tammy, is although I think that the goals that we have on there currently are really good, and I think that they're noble goals to have, I think that the only problem with them is in a lot of ways, like with policy. Policy is a pass-fail kind of goal. It's like it's done or it's not done. And we can talk about pace and things like that. And like I said, I don't have any complaints there as far as how fast we've moved. I think we've really tried hard over the last few years. But I do think that having something that could be data rich or something that's a little bit more concrete in that way would be helpful in tracking progress as far as the school district goes. So that would be where that would come in. I don't think it's anywhere like an improvement plan territory though. Even with discipline, I think discipline, because it's relational in nature, is really hard to get solid data points about. You can say this is where discipline is at, but that can mean you can have a couple of different things. If you get rid of all the laws, it looks like crime is at 0%. But crime is probably not at 0% if you get rid of all the laws. It's probably way worse than if you have them. And so balancing that out is a really important concept. But I think that what we've been talking about so far is good. And that would be something that I would want to discuss. I don't know how we would move forward with that exactly. Is that something that we would bring up at another planning meeting? Is it something that we would bring to the full board?
I think it's something that we would do both. We would bring it up to the full board, and if the full board was like, yeah, this makes sense, then it's incumbent to come back here, make a timeline, make a plan, talk with our advisor from CISA 6, make sure that we can, not make sure that we can use the tool that way, because they will say it's the tool, use it however really benefits you the most.
Yeah.
But really getting some guidance from them as discussion points where I'm sure other districts have tried some of these things we're talking about a collective discussion point and all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
They will be good to give us guidance as how to do that well and effectively.
Okay.
And then put us on a better path of getting there.
Sure.
And so it's really going to have to come back, go on a timeline, and make sure that we're hitting those points.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, that's what I would recommend then, as a member of the board, is let's bring it for a discussion point at the full board meeting, and then see where it goes from there. What's up?
I'm not sure if Craig was trying to.
Raise his hand.
Oh, sorry, Craig.
Okay, go ahead, Craig.
No, not a problem. I was just getting a little bit nervous. I wanted to just try to caution us to stick to not talking about or setting the specific goals, but rather just making sure that the conversation is centered around planning for those particular goals. And then, because we're still in open session, at some point we'll have to have a closed session about those particular goals.
Yes.
Sure, great point. Thank you, Craig.
Is there any way that we could maybe have the CISA 6 rep come to the board meeting and discuss to the whole board?
They would absolutely.
Just because I'm really just going off of a 20-minute video, and somebody that has a little more in depth.
Yeah, and I can check to see their availability on the 28th. It might be a short turnaround for that discussion.
Okay.
But we'll try to see if we can get somebody there. Jason, will you help us with that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
For note-taking purposes here, for action items, I'm writing 2 action items that Jason will reach out to Tim, see his availabiliability for the full board.
Even if it's
July.
Zoom,
Yep.
just zooming in for that part of
Sure.
the meeting. He doesn't have to come here for the whole meeting.
Yep. And then the second is that we would put on the full board meeting in July, I'm guessing under strategic conversation or something, DAPES as a process, as a conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
Strategic discussion.
Yep, I'll put that, I'll work with Lynn to make sure.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I would call it DAPE's process planning.
Good.
So that way people, know to keep it, like Craig said, that higher level.
Sure.
Okay, so no more questions. Are we ready to move on, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
That donut was so good, I just wanted to
Okay,
Come
so
back.
item D is the Board of Education self-survey. Jason and I had discussed potentially introducing a new survey starting in May after the new election comes, and I just want to get the board's temperature on how they feel about, we don't want to survey the board to death, but it might be a good idea, I feel, to add an extra survey after every election cycle at the beginning of May, to have the board members survey and share what they think is a point that the district should focus on and improvements. To see if there are a number of board members that have the same thing that they think needs to be focused on, so we can hit the ground running on things that the board can collectively agree upon to move forward and make changes of. That would not get rid of the commitment survey. We would still have the commitment survey kind of like a board reflection on how we feel we are working well with one another. Improvements that we need to make as a board body so that we can work well together, or any sort of feedback that we need to give one another. I'm just really trying to get the board's temperature on how they feel about having two different surveys, so 4 times a year, right? No,
I think we said,
Yes.
yep, 2 for the focus survey and 2 for the commitment survey. Yep.
yep, so at the beginning in May, we would do the initial focus survey. What are we focused on? We check back in again in 6 months and say, okay, well, how well did we do with those? Now that we've conquered that, are there any new things that we think we should focus on as a group? And in between that, do the commitment surveys to see how we feel we are working well with one another or not.
That sounds great to me.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to make one suggestion. Instead of May, I would like to look at maybe the June and December for 2 reasons. One, June and December line up better for like first and second semester,
Okay,
right? And it helps divide up that year logically. But also, not everybody, when they come to the board, maybe feels comfortable after being just voted on or even knowing what the board's like. Give them a meeting to settle in.
okay,
Give them
fair.
one
fair.
meeting to roll through,
Mhm.
right? And that will also give them at least 30 days, now that they know they're in the role, to really dig in deep, talk to constituents, talk to teachers, like many of you did. I mean, think about your first 30 to 60 days. You're gonna be in a much better spot in June than you are in May.
Okay, I don't disagree with that.
Right.
Thank
So,
you.
I don't think that terribly knocks around, the 4 times a year. It's just shifting them by a month.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think that works great.
Anybody thoughts, opinions, concerns, anything?
Sam, didn't we take the word self out of that survey the last time we talked?
That was a discussion, and I think that's part of the treachery of language
Yeah.
to me. It's self-evaluation.
Yeah.
The word self can refer to an individual, or it can refer to a collection of individuals, depending on the context. So if we want to take the word self out, that's fine, but I think that it makes sense, and I'm not going to, I understand the idea of like, hey, let's not make people talk poorly about themselves. I don't want to go through a Chinese struggle session at all, but
You made me do that on a self-review. Come on, that's fair is fair.
and it's a little bit different. I think, never mind, I'll talk about that later. We're not supposed to talk about individual personnel matters during open session, Jerry.
I love that.
But, so I understand we don't want to just pile that on people, but I don't think that's what the last survey turned out to be, as you worked through it with, I don't remember who you worked with, maybe Tina, I think, or Diana. But I don't think that's how it turned out. I think that the last survey had some interesting questions, and it was more about, again, it's about the collective commitments. How is the board functioning? How do we feel the board is doing with moving forward in the manner that it wishes to as a body. And so I think self-survey makes sense in that sense. And I would rather, like I said, I can go either way on it. I don't want to add the word collective self-survey or something
No,
like
I
that,
just-
certainly.
Did you like those questions?
I thought some of them were really interesting. You weren't at the meeting where we discussed them, and I think one of the questions, the question that garnered the greatest level of interesting discussion was one that you suggested. So I really liked that one specifically. I don't know if I can say what the question was or if that's getting too far into whatever, but I really enjoyed that one. I thought overall it was interesting. Obviously, the context in which a survey is taken regarding a group of people is very important as to how that survey fits. You know, every group is different. So I think that's an element, but that's also where making sure that we've assessed our collective commitments as a whole is really important. And I think that's something that we would have to do with that collective commitment survey is we would have to make sure that we revisit it fairly quickly then every time we have new board members enter. Now, say in April, we don't have any new board members enter. We wouldn't need to readdress that because it's something that, unless someone specifically requested it. But if we have new board members enter, it's something that I think would be important to do is to adjust both our collective commitments and how our survey reflects those collective commitments.
I don't know, I guess I somewhat disagree with you on that, Sam, because I do think even if everybody's still at the table, a lot can change in a year in a district. So it might be good to revisit those collective commitments, or even reach out to the board members and say, please respond and let me know if you feel like we need to revisit our collective commitments and let the majority rule if we should discuss that or not.
And that's what I'm
And
proposing.
definitely Drew Howitt would recommend, and he's the gentleman that we have been going to for guidance on collective commitments, goal setting, and board development in general. He would recommend an annual review and an annual recommitment to those. And he would also talk about doing something like give new board members a month to get on the board before asking them to commit to something that they have no idea what, you know, how we even function. And so he would say somewhere around that June time would be a good time to do that too, because that would give them some time to have gone through committee meetings, see how things happen, and at least be able to raise some questions or discussion points.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that the June-December timeline is a great recommendation.
I mean, and that's just a review on those collective commitments. Then you can survey those, right? Around that September timeline, and then 6 months from September, do another survey on those collective commitments just before the community votes again on new members. So you actually have a final discussion on that survey that you guys were talking about around the collective commitments.
Tammy, do you think you need to have a subcommittee that would formulate the questions for that survey?
I'm not opposed to a subcommittee for
That's
it.
what we did the last time.
Yeah, I would be absolutely comfortable with getting a subcommittee together. I don't know if we want to move this to the full board to discuss it, so everybody's available to decide if they want to participate in a focus survey, or if we want to make a decision here at this level to say we're going to move forward with a focus survey and a commitment survey.
Well, I think either way, we should recommend it as an item to be voted on by the board. I think that would be fair. That was one of the main things that I heard during the last survey process, was that there was a preference for more of a full board engagement and affirmation of those surveys. And I think that would be good to do. Additionally, in the same vein, although I don't have problems with subcommittees, certainly, I think that having the opportunity for all board members to participate might be best. I think there's a little bit more to be discussed there as far as what does it look like when that survey is being crafted and adjusted.
Sam and I and Craig are in discussion about building the agenda for that retreat coming up in August with Drew. And one of the things that Drew wanted to understand was what commitment the planning committee had towards collective commitments, goal setting, and surveying of the board. We'll report that back at our next, we got another scheduled meeting to finalize that agenda. We'll report that back to him, and that'll help him shape that discussion point. So whatever comes out of this meeting today we'll share with Drew, and then he can help plan that for August. And then at that time in August, the board will be together and they can talk about maybe some of the final points of those things, the collective commitments, the survey piece, how do we want to go about doing that. It'll be, I think, a really good tie-in. It'll work perfectly.
Okay. So then we're gonna move this to the board for voting to see if they would like to do the focus survey, or if we just want to stay with the commitments.
Yeah, I would say,
So would it be a full discussion and then a vote?
I would say doing that at that retreat would be a good idea. Like, you know, if that's.
Okay, yeah, I'm comfortable with bringing the conversation back.
Bring
up
the
at
conversation to the retreat, right? If you guys are, you know, committed, I mean, I guess what Drew would want to know is, are you committed to doing work on collective commitments? Do you think that's valuable, right? Do you think it's valuable to survey yourselves around those collective commitments on an annual or biannual basis? And then when it comes to goal setting, having that discussion that you talked about twice annually, what's important to each board member, right? And how does that develop goals for the next 6 months? He would really key into that discussion.
Okay.
So if I'm hearing right, the committee so far is talking about doing a goal setting and whatever discussion twice monthly, or excuse me, twice annually, 6 months apart, June and December. And a commitment to collective commitments in in a June meeting, creating the collective commitments, evaluating yourselves on those twice annually, once in September and once in March, right? And that's the help that he can help us with in August.
Okay.
Right? And if that goes well, the board will commit to that in August as a part of the retreat.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I am comfortable with that.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, anybody else? How you feel about that?
sounds good to me.
One thing, I would like to have the opportunity for all board members to submit questions that would be on the survey.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
completely agree.
And I think that's a good topic for when we get together in August to talk about how those check-in surveys are going to be done, whether it's around the goals or it's around those collective commitments.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely something to be discussed at further length at that meeting. I think that would be good.
Okay. All right, so now we're on to action items.
Oh, yes. I thought we did public comment first.
Oh, no, it was removed from now.
Oh, okay.
Because committees only have one public comment section in the beginning.
I wrote down 7 action items stemming from tonight. First is that I will work with Melissa Lampy to get that PDF of the mailer shared with all members of the board. Second is that I will share the themes from the parent survey and share that with the members of the board. I will, Sam is actually gonna email me some further direction or requests that he has that's thinking about for school perceptions, and I'll work with Derek to get that and share it with the full board. Tammy and Jason will discuss school level parent survey data when we connect and part of our planning. Jason will talk to Tim from CISA about his availability for the Board of Education meeting in July. And I will work with Lynn to make sure DAPE's process planning is a strategic discussion. If Tim is not available, do we still want to have the discussion?
I think we should still have the discussion. I'll just watch the video a little more and maybe be able to articulate
Maybe
it.
we'll have to get together.
Yeah,
Sit
right.
together.
Take
Grab a
team it or
pizza.
something, yeah.
And then the last one is I have Dr. Burke will work with Sam, Craig, and Drew to make sure that part of the planning for the August retreat is around the focus survey and commitment survey and planning out what that looks like.
There was, and I don't, it kind of falls into a little bit of a gray area, but I did ask about bringing some information about options with, like keyword filtering on the chats or moderation options for Google Meet, just to try to maintain as many opportunities for people to discuss as they can get. With YouTube, it's a little bit different because then it's out to the whole world, but I think with Google Meet, that's a good
I mean, like on YouTube, it really doesn't. I get that there's some legal discussions and everything else about liability and opening, and then keeping those chats because it's a record of the school district and all that, right? But there's some of those discussion points that, I think Craig was keying into with our attorney. But YouTube in itself, if they're doing it on that platform, right, that's not like doing it right here in the meeting. Again, it's like people are outside, they're looking in the window, they hear what's going on, and they're talking to each other out there, right? It's, we can't necessarily.
Yeah, it's not bombarding Lynn with a bunch of comments on
It's not hopping up and trying to move things along in the meeting. And I will tell you that there are people who are trying to attend the meeting virtually who are not happy with that interrupting the meeting all the time.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I would think that the YouTube Live option is fantastic. I love watching stuff on YouTube Live. I think it's a really nice mix where you can just totally shut off comments if you want to, whether or not they're even there. Sometimes they're shut down, of course, but I think that's a really good solution. As I said, I'm super happy with that. Yeah, so that was the only other thing. There's some
So I
options.
wrote down that I'll work with Dave Lockstein to further explore Google chat filtering and monitoring. And I'll share
Awesome.
what he learned.
Okay. So, we're good?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so there's past agenda items. I did reach out to Craig to get the next meeting of the chairs. He's looking into his schedule. We haven't set anything quite yet. You did connect with the School Board of we've already connected with the School Board of Academic Excellence on possible professional development, but as Sam had discussed earlier in the meeting, it's just delayed due to, some hiccups on the board. You invited people to the planning committee, Jason?
That was that referendum
Random.
debriefing that was held on May 12th. Yes, we had some folks participate in that.
Okay.
As well.
And Sam's still working on the workshop stuff? The board workshops, he did a brief overview of that?
Yeah, I do have a
Please go ahead.
discussion point on that. I know that we're still trying to find people to do the Robert's Rules of Order and everything else. On the WASB agenda for the Stevens Point meeting, they have somebody doing that work. I don't know if you want to reach out to the person on that agenda.
Sure, yeah, if you email me their contact information, I'll definitely reach out. That sounds great.
I'll look on that agenda again, figure out who it was, but I just saw it as listed as one of the topics. Parliamentary procedures and the boardroom or something like that was called.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Love options.
All right, and we worked on, we have our standing date, Jason.
Yes.
All right, so future agenda planning.
That's just a link
Yeah.
to that previous calendar. I think you and I
Yeah.
still need to get into that.
And the next meeting date is September 10th of 2025 at 5:30 PM.
Tammy, I have
Please.
something I'd like to address. The 26-27 calendar. That idea, I think I mentioned that we could shorten the school year by lengthening each day 15 minutes.
Mhm.
And in Burlington, they saved $1.2 million.
Mhm.
So at least discuss that some future date in planning, and obviously would involve fiscal to a certain degree, so.
So would you be looking to change the calendar that was already set for 26-27?
Yes. Or
I mean, we're trying,
27, 28,
right,
you know what I mean?
we're trying to stay 2 years ahead for people so that they can, families really
Right.
wanted us to give them a lot of time for vacation planning, other things that they're doing, right? it may cause an issue with parents to say, you just got on a 2-year cycle and now you're changing it.
Well,
You know,
yeah, I'm just thinking if the referendum fails again.
I know, we may be forced to make a change then, you're right.
It would be good to have the discussion sooner rather than
I
later,
agree.
because it's good to get the information out, so yeah.
Is there any way that we could possibly add it to, or we could discuss maybe putting it in next month's agenda to discuss what that looks like? And I could reach out maybe to Sarah to see about maybe getting some financials of what she would anticipate this district would save just on transportation, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, that would be a good question for fiscal to look into. So, getting a hold of Carl and talking about what that would look like. We want to try to keep fiscal stuff in fiscal and, planning stuff, calendar usually goes through HR. So that might be a thing for HR to look into. Craig, I think, was wanting to talk with.
That's what the rustling was, right?
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's good.
Yeah, it wouldn't be for the July meeting for sure, because we have a packed agenda for July. So.
July what?
Oh, like the general board
main
meeting.
board meeting you're talking about, Craig?
Correct. If you were to bring
Okay.
that forward, it would probably be bumped to August.
Oh, no, we would want to bring it to a committee level first,
Either
and
way.
Jared's recommending HR or fiscal.
Yeah, well, I'm recommending calendar, probably HR, because HR works on that calendar with Margaret Brady, who does the calendar planning stuff. And then transportation, of course, and costing of transportation would be more our fiscal responsibility, and Sarah Duncan more with fiscal on that. So, good idea. Just wanting to make sure that we put them in the best place. Otherwise, you're going to require Margaret to come to this meeting in addition to her HR meeting, Sarah to come to this meeting in addition to, and it could be done there.
Okay.
I mean, and we go to those meetings as well, so.
So just for action items, are you comfortable reaching out to Margaret?
Oh, yes, I'm absolutely comfortable with that. Thank you.
Yeah, and she runs HR anyways.
Yeah.
Every time we talk at planning about doing something in HR, I always want to say, hey, can you connect with the committee chair there?
Yeah, can you connect with yourself and the committee chair?
And then who's gonna connect with Sarah around the fiscal piece?
Either I can, or, I mean, Carl, you can as well, but I can do that for you if you want me to just connect with her.
Be
on
my
that.
guest.
Can I, just out of curiosity, can I draft an email to Sarah, to Margaret and attach Sarah and Carl to it and say for us to understand how this might work for us? Could we maybe have could we maybe have the fiscal data available at our HR meeting?
Oh, sure, that.
I mean, potentially, I'm asking if that's okay, because I don't.
Kind of getting that request out to both committee administrators and the chair, I think would probably be the best way to do it.
And then Carl, if you're able to attend the HR meeting, maybe you could.
I'll be there.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. It will shake out perfectly then.
No problem.
So I would, we already have HR and fiscal being planned for July. I would aim for those in August. We were gonna hit that topic in August anyway. You guys know that we're planning to put all of these things together so that we have a communication out to our community about if a referendum doesn't pass, here's all the things we're going to do. Right? That's already in our pocket as one of the things we may have to do.
Yeah.
Right? So we're already starting to plan for how many days would we want to shave off of contracts for people? How much transportation savings is that? We have to look at our contract for transportation because it's a 10-year. So I don't know if we save money or don't save money, right? And we're in year, I think 6 of that 10-year next year. And so there's a lot of different things, but we would need a little bit more time.
Oh, yeah, I think that my meeting with Margaret is not next week, but the week after, and I wouldn't expect Sarah or her to have any of that information readily available to present that quickly. So I understand that.
I just listed as a to-do that you'll work with Sarah and Margaret around learning more about that calendar idea.
Okay, and Dan, maybe you and I can just touch base on, I think you said it was after Memorial Day, before Labor Day out, or is it the other way around?
and added 15 minutes to each day.
Okay,
And so that the teachers would get a per diem raise without it costing the district anything. You know what I mean? So
okay. That lingo means, can you explain that lingo? Just out of curiosity.
per day, you know.
Have
Oh,
have them
okay.
here less time, but they make more per day.
Okay, got
Keep
it,
the pay at the same rate.
got it, okay.
If you do that, you don't save any money, but they get paid more for the days they're working.
You
Okay,
don't
got
lose
it.
any money either.
You don't lose any money.
That's the big deal.
Okay, perfect. So anybody else? Questions, concerns, suggestions? All right, then I'm gonna say that this meeting is coming to a close. Oh, please, go ahead.
I think Craig was trying to speak again.
Okay, go ahead, Craig.
No, I appreciate it. I was just trying to make sure that we're sticking to the agenda, and you guys are, so that's all good.
Okay, thanks, Craig. I hope you have a great night.
You
All
too,
right, so we're
thanks.
gonna say the meeting ends at 7:07 PM.
Sounds 7.
Perfect.
That sounds like a Bowie.
7 and 7.
That sounds even better.
Yeah.
Next HR.
This is the first one that's come out.